Here we are. Welcome, everybody.
Hey.
We just wrapped up Best WWE Superstar.
Yeah.
Now what are we doing?
We're doing the best TV show limited to dramas and comedies.
Right.
So your reality shows, your documentary shows, and that other third one that I keep forgetting that we talked about.
Game shows.
Game shows.
Game shows.
Yeah,
Ain't gonna be
yeah.
no Jeopardy or Legends of the Hidden Temple or Jersey Shore on here.
Yeah.
But we tried to boil it down to just comedy and drama. We got the left side, all the dramas, the right side, all the comedies. So more often than not, it's not going to be comparing apples to oranges, but that last final matchup, it's going to be a drama versus a comedy.
Mm-hmm.
So,
But sometimes the good shows do a little of both.
Right.
So, we might have a comedy show that was able to touch on some more like topical things, or a drama that puts in the yucks here and there.
yeah, I mean, there's some yucks, and Game of Thrones would have zero yucks.
That's true.
Maybe Tyrion was a little.
There's some humor every once in a while. If you like, ridiculous, old-timey sounding words for the male genitalia.
That's true. Yeah, very true. So why don't we take a look at... So we're going to be breaking down the whole first round.
Yeah.
So at this point in time, we have done all first round matchups. And remember, we put these all up to polls on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and here on YouTube. So you can come and vote every single day. We put up at least one poll, or you can just tune into the matchups and listen to the results and tell us if you think we're right, tell us if you think we're wrong. But we don't have a say. We just put the polls up. We do create the brackets, but we just put the polls up and we let the followers decide. So on the full left side, it was the dramas. So why don't we go ahead and start off with the Northwest region, where the number one seed was The Sopranos. So were there any matchups in particular that stuck out to you? Any favorite shows on there?
Yeah, there are some favorite shows. I don't know if any matchups stuck out. Nothing surprised me too much. One sort of surprised me, but maybe not that much. Maybe two surprised me. Because it looks like the 8-9. I knew Walking Dead was popular, but a lot of shows, and what we've seen with a lot of votes in first round, especially in drama, is if a show... Excuse me, I had a burp there. Is if a show started off strong and then kind of tailed off and people started not liking it, it a lot of times lost.
Oh, God. Shows.
Spoiler for the bottom half of a first round, because there's a show called Lost. It lost. I think it did.
It's the,
We'll see. I don't
it's
remember.
the ultimate tanking show.
Yeah.
Too, I think.
And so Walking Dead kind of tanked. A lot of people soured on it. So I didn't know how I was going to do. I don't know if it's seated too high, too low. I really don't know how to read it. But going over Atlanta, I just know Walking Dead was massively popular and everybody probably did see it. So you had an opinion on it. Where I don't know if as many people saw Atlanta. So it might not be surprising. But that one kind of did surprise me. But yeah, I've got a couple personal favorites on here. Westworld lost to Dexter. I think Dexter's pretty popular, and I knew it was.
Yeah.
And I almost felt bad putting Westworld on with how badly it lost in that matchup. But I'm a big fan. It did have one really great season. And then I'm a big fan of Twilight Zone and a big fan of Mr. Robot. Robot did not win. Lost to Squid Game. I think it's fair. They're kind of similarly like odd, weird, trippy shows. But it surprised. It actually, that one again didn't surprise me, but it kind of did. Mr. Robot, a show that aired on cable, which back in the day you'd think, cable, more people have seen it. But Squid Game on Netflix, and almost more people have Netflix or a streaming thing and will know those shows than a show that's been recent on cable television. And Mr. Robot's only 7-8 years old, I think.
Oh, okay.
It's a fairly recent show. It did end, though, as well. So, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I noticed we have seen in a lot of the matchups, one of us has seen one show and the other one has seen the other show, and the opposite. So there's a lot of shows on here that I'll be the first one to tell you I haven't seen. I haven't seen Atlanta. I've only heard good things about it, so I was a little surprised to see Walking Dead beat it. And then in the first round, I've seen some of Sopranos. Say what you will about that. But I have seen most of House of Cards. Was not surprised to see Sopranos beat House of Cards. Haven't seen Twin Peaks. I have seen You. I love You. I think, all 4 seasons.
That one kind of surprised me. Because I know Twin Peaks is like cult levels of popularity, but it was a not long-running show. I guess I just had no clue about You's popularity.
Yeah.
I've heard of it, haven't seen it. Twin Peaks is one of those shows that you watch and at first you think like, oh, this is a straightforward show. And then by the time you're like halfway into the season, you're like, there's just so many things that I don't get and don't understand. And it's weird and it never answers a lot of questions. So it's a frustrating show for a lot of people. And it's really like only if you're into like weird kind of filmmaking stuff is it going to be something that you like, yeah, I get it and I like it.
Okay.
So that's why I loved it as a 5. I think I put it as a 5. It's like, this is good for it because it's one of those shows like might really be popular. It's like a weird cult-ish indie show. So you beating it sort of surprised me, but what do you think about You? Are you like, a big fan?
I do like it. Yeah, I think the 3rd season was a bit of a step down. I didn't like the 3rd season quite as much, where he tried to be like domesticated and he had a son, and it was cool. It was still entertaining. Just that plot line alone, where like he is a serial killer. It's similar to a Dexter, but a lot different. Also, I feel like just the plot alone goes a long way. It makes the show always entertaining. And then I think with the 4th season, arguably the best season, it was definitely a step up from the 3rd season. So I loved You. I love You too. Then getting on to the next matchup, Dexter versus Westworld, and we got a lot of flack for not having Band of Brothers on here, a show that I've never personally seen all the way through. I have seen some episodes. Classic HBO show. So we did throw it on here, but Dexter did end up beating Westworld and Band of Brothers. Squid Game I've seen. It's only the 1 season. I loved it. I don't think there's ever been a show where it's just stuck in my brain so deeply. Like, I would have dreams about it. The theme would be playing in my head all the time.
Yeah.
Some of the games that they do, like there's a tug of war that's like, oh man.
It's a red light, green light variation.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it, but I know a lot about it. I know its premise. And it's the kind of show that like definitely is up my alley. I don't know why I haven't watched it. I just have kind of not watched as much TV lately. But it's absolutely like, I am not mad if this show wins and moves on very far, because it's got that like darker and not sci-fi element, but sort of just like slightly unreal element, but in a world that could exist. In like a more at any time in the future, even now, in like a very like totalitarian country that decides to like do something crazy with like its population and things like that. So I love it, despite not having seen it.
Dude, the future is here. I just saw a tweet that there are robot cops in New York.
The robot dog ones.
There's the robot dogs. Yeah,
I heard that.
Help Patrol. It's like so wild. Like, we're just slowly allowing this stuff to happen. They've made so many movies about why that's a bad idea. Yeah. So Star Trek Succession, 2 shows that I've never seen, but I know you've seen.
Oh, I thought you had seen Succession.
No, never seen Succession.
You know what we realized about Succession?
What?
Most banger opening theme song.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I was putting together a little video, and I was like, well, Star Trek intro theme is like really boring, and then I was like, Succession theme, thinking it would be something not that interesting, and it slaps hard, man. Holy crap, somebody needs to do a remix and sing or rap over that.
Right.
I am familiar with a decent amount of Star Trek, though.
Okay, yeah. Are you Kirk or Picard?
Oh, that's a bold question, and it boldly goes where everybody in Star Trek has gone before in asking that. I like Patrick Stewart more.
Okay.
Even though like Captain Kirk, William Shatner is the OG, the original Star Trek captain, but I would pick Captain Picard. How about you?
I like Patrick Stewart more too, but I've never watched the show, so I'm just going based off personality. Yeah, Shatner's an entertaining fellow. Though.
He is. Yeah.
Can you do a Shatner impression? There's nothing we can do, right?
Yeah, because that's actually we're doing like the Jim Carrey doing William Shatner.
Oh yeah, he goes, there's something
on the wing.
Thing.
Yeah. That's funny because that's actually his line from Twilight Zone.
Oh, Twilight Zone.
The episode that he's in.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
Oh, I do. Do you have like favorite Twilight Zone episodes?
Yeah. So of all the shows, maybe not of all the shows, of most of the shows in this region, Twilight Zone is one of my favorite ones I've seen most of, aside from Westworld and Mr. Robot. Those 2 I have seen the full series of. But I do have a couple favorite Twilight Zone episodes. I would say one of them actually is, I don't know the name of it.
Okay.
And it's usually not listed in like a best episodes, but it's actually one of the ones that kind of has a nice ending.
Oh, okay.
I call it the Kick the Can episode.
Okay.
And it's about like a bunch of old people in like an old living home, and they're kind of like looking outside and looking at kids playing games late at night, being loud and rowdy.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this one guy's like, "Get out of here, kids! I'm so tired of these kids being loud, and you know, we're old. We need our peace and quiet." And a couple of the other people are like, "No, come on, let him be. This looks like fun. Don't you remember when you were a kid, when you were young?" Mm-hmm. And these old people, and he's kind of the bitter curmudgeon. He never kind of changes. He's like, "No, we're old. We're dying. This is it. I'm sick of people having fun. Like, life, it sucks." Mm-hmm. And some of the old people get this idea, like, let's go out and play Kick the Can one last time. Let's sneak out. Mm-hmm. Let's go out and play. And they try to get him to come and do it, and he won't do it. And they do sneak out. They play. And he hears them. He's like, "Where'd everybody go? Who's out there?" And he's trying to get the other people. And like the end of the episode is that they've kind of like turned back into young kids again. And they run off, and like he's stuck there being old forever. And like youth is really what you make of it. It's not your age. It's like go out, have fun. I really like the message of that one.
That's cool.
The other two are more common ones. I won't describe them because you've probably seen them or know something about them. One is The Time at Last, a very famous one that's been parodied a lot, where a guy who loves reading books, works at a bank, gets locked in the safe because he's always distracted. A big nuclear bomb goes off and like destroys the world. Mm-hmm. And finally, instead of his nagging wife and his nagging boss who won't let him read, he kind of comes down there and he's like really sad at first, but he's like, "Oh, I have all this time to read books." And he like finds a library and he finds books, like, yes! And his glasses, he like puts his glasses down and then he steps on them and breaks them. And he can't read the books anymore. It's like this kind of like careful what you wish for, like corrupt a wish thing. And then the last one, my personal favorite, it's called It's a Good Life. It's basically about like this young boy who has like godlike powers. And he kind of, this whole village kind of like gathers around. I think it's on his birthday, but like they have to always like cater to his needs and his whims. Okay. And possibly as a parent, like this one would kind of, I'm sure everybody who's been a parent of like a kid or something would be like, yeah, sometimes it feels like this. But it's basically like if everybody gets really nervous when somebody says something that the kid wouldn't agree with, like, "Hey, we don't want to watch this show tonight. Can't we watch another show?" Whatever the kid's name is, maybe it's Billy. And he's like, "No, I want to watch this show." He's like, "This," like one guy gets drunk, like like a local neighbor is like, "It's this show. It's always we got to do with Billy." And everybody's like nervous. And he like pops his head off and kills him, and like anything he doesn't like, he has the power to just kill it and blink it out of existence. And so it's this like like there's this whole town being held hostage by the whims of this kid who just is irrational, and it's really creepy and scary, but it's really cool.
Interesting.
Those are my top 3.
Interesting. That's pretty cool. You know what? Now that I'm looking back on it, I mean, we can't go back and reseed stuff, but so this was up against the show Power. Mm-hmm. I love Power, but I think a better matchup for Twilight Zone would have been Black Mirror. Did you ever watch any Black Mirror?
I have seen Black Mirror.
Okay.
I like Black Mirror a lot.
Yeah. I get those Twilight Zone vibes from Black Mirror.
Oh, for sure.
Just because I haven't seen a lot of Twilight Zone, but just the plot lines of the shows and just kind of the story arc, how it's like a twisted reality a little bit, dystopian, utopian, whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm just thinking, like, as you were talking, I'm like, Black Mirror episodes, there's that one super weird one where the two buddies are characters in video games, and then they're like simulation video games. So think of like a Mortal Kombat, where like you put things in your head, and rather than like the joystick, you are actually the one they're fighting. And then they realize that like while they're playing, they like one plays a female character, one plays a male. Then they like their characters like fall in love and like hook up, and they're like, and then they're sitting there like in real life, they're like, "Wait, are we gay?" Like, yeah.
Was that from one of the newest seasons? I actually hadn't seen that one.
I think it was from relatively older one, maybe 3.
Interesting.
Season 3. I don't know. Don't quote me, but yeah. So those kind of mind-bending reality.
Yeah. No, Black Mirror is really good, and I felt like because Twilight Zone was going to be on here, and Squid Game is also sort of mind-bending reality. Mm-hmm. I didn't try to vouch for Black Mirror to get on here because I was like, nah. Yeah. But yeah, so, it's a show I like a lot.
Right. So Twilight Zone did beat Power, and then this one, 2 shows that I've never seen, but I've had so many people tell me that I need to watch The Wire. We had The Wire versus 24.
Yeah.
Have you seen either of these shows? Did you watch a little 24? Or?
No, not really.
All right. So The Wire moves on.
Mine was on as
I'm
I
sure,
expected.
and The Wire is like one of those shows, it's almost like The Office, but for drama, where like, maybe not as popular, but people who watch The Wire really love The Wire. And I hate to, be up here talking about it when I don't have much to say about it. So why don't we move on down so we got our second round.
There's our winners of the first round: Sopranos,
Yep.
Walking Dead.
Boom.
Could be an interesting one just
Yeah.
because of Walking Dead's popularity.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, if there's enough fan base there's enough people in the mass population that have seen Sopranos.
Yeah.
But everybody that has seen it recognizes it as an incredible show.
For sure.
You versus Dexter, a little bit of stalkery, killery
Yeah, those
thing
are kind
vibes.
of similar.
Squid Game, Star Trek, a little sci-fi
Yeah.
going up against each other, so you like that. And then Twilight Zone, Wire.
Oh,
Two shows are very different that are going
interesting.
against each other.
Yeah. So we'll see, who comes out there. And then moving on down Southwest region, we had this as our Breaking Bad region.
This might have each of our individual favorite drama shows.
Yeah,
On the drama side.
I think so. I'm Breaking Bad all the way. That's my pick to win at least the drama side. It's my favorite drama of all time.
Yeah. Well, while we're here on Breaking Bad, and I know we'll probably get to talk a lot about this one because we'll probably go pretty deep.
I hope so.
Who are your 5 favorite Breaking Bad characters?
Ooh, the top 5 Breaking Bad characters. All right, so just off the top of my head, at the risk of sounding cliche, Walt and Jesse,
Okay.
got to be up there.
Sure.
2 main characters, I would say. Gus.
Who's Gus?
Gus is like, so once Walt becomes Heisenberg, like, and gets renowned for being like the guy who cooks the blue meth, he ends up kind of working under a gentleman named Gus. Gus has this whole operation that's like, he is like the American version of the cartel. He works directly with the cartel. So the super like stoic but also dangerous fellow, and everything's going good. Gus has this whole like professional lab set out for him, and he hides the lab in it's like a laundry I want to say laundry factory. Laundromat, kind of, but
A place that manufactures laundry machines?
well, so, yes, no. So he owns a chain of fast food restaurants, and they do like all of the laundry needed to keep the restaurants up and running in this laundromat. But that's also a hub for where they cook the meth, because like underground, it's an excuse to like have all the chemicals shipped there. So it's underneath one of the big laundry
like dry
cycles.
cleaner type thing.
Yeah. So I'm going Gus. Saul is the attorney, and they did the spinoff Better Call Saul, which is right here. In
What's kind of his role in the show? Is he like an attorney for the main characters?
Yeah,
Okay.
so he's the attorney for Walt and Jesse.
Okay.
And he gets him out of a lot of binds and just tells him what to do. But he's Bob Odenkirk is super charismatic.
Yeah,
like on
that's a
camera
great
and
word.
off. And he's got a whole track record before Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul. He used to write for Saturday Night Live.
Yeah,
Super
I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure I often see him credited as the writer for both of these shows, Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, and had seen him credited on a lot of really well received shows for their writing. So he's a talent.
Yeah, I remember watching old Chris Farley interviews where like he'd be on Leno or Letterman, and they'd be like, "Do you write your own stuff?" And then Farley would be like, "No, Bob Odenkirk wrote that for me because I'm too dumb to come up with my own material." So like he'd been around forever. So hats off to Bob Odenkirk. And then my 5th, there's a lot. There's the Badger's pretty cool. The Sun's pretty cool, but I think I'm gonna go with Tuco. Now, Tuco, it was like the main bad guy before Gus.
Oh, okay.
So he was like who Walt and Jesse were working with, and just total loose cannon, would like just break out and do meth like in the middle of a meeting, just total wild card. So those would be my 5.
Nice.
But yeah, definitely pulling for Breaking Bad to make a good run here.
Well, it did win its first round matchup against Orange is the New Black.
Yeah, also a good show.
Yeah. And then it's going up against, as you can see here, it's going to go up against Better Call Saul. So Better Call Saul also won. I almost feel like Better Call Saul kind of got the raw end of a deal here. I mean, at some point they'd probably have to face each other.
Yeah.
And people will probably vote for Breaking Bad over it because that was the first show, and then this is a spinoff, and Breaking Bad was so well received. But that's going to be an interesting one. Have you watched a lot of Better Call Saul or all of it?
I haven't watched any of it.
Oh, okay. Because I was going to ask you then. Because I thought maybe you'd be like, I don't know. As somebody who's watched both of them, I think Better Call Saul is better. I've heard some people feel that way.
Yeah, I've heard people say Better Call Saul doesn't have quite like the big action, like explosion type thing as Breaking Bad, but it's kind of dialogue heavy, but it's just as entertaining. Like that's what people say. So it's definitely on my list. I don't really have a list, but I would love to get into that show. My wife and I, Emily, we're going through Peaky Blinders right now. And it always takes us, we watch 1 or 2 episodes a week, so it always takes us a while to get through a series.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's, coming up.
Sweet.
So next up, what do we have? Sons of Anarchy, which has a huge following. We had a lot of people tell us they really wanted this on the bracket, so we got it on the bracket. And it's going against a show that I had never heard of coming in, Death Note.
Yeah.
You got anything to speak on either of these?
I haven't seen Sons of Anarchy. I have seen Death Note. I put Death Note here in the 512 because, again, 512s I think are good places for a show that could perform really well, but maybe wouldn't. Death Note's one of the only animes that I've seen, like all or at least most of it, and I thought it was really good. There is some great drama. I've described some drama this way before. There's kind of like 2 kinds of tension, to break it down like super broadly, and there's way more. But there's tension where, like, it would sort of be like a detective show, where like there's a murder, the character doesn't know who's killed somebody, and you also don't know, and the tension comes from who did it, who, like, there's. But there's still danger because there's some suspects and you're going around like, could that be the guy? Could that be the guy? Is he in danger now? And there's that kind of tension and drama. And that's almost the more common one that I feel like happens. Like, when creating tension, just not knowing who's the enemy or what could happen. But Death Note, and I'm wondering if Breaking Bad does similar, which is why people like it. Death Note, who's killing people. You know who's trying to stop them. And they even most likely, more than not, know who each other are and knows he's. But this one guy has like this, finds this book that he writes in anybody's name and it kills him. So he can basically kill anybody at will. And so you're the person trying to prove that it's this guy, but you don't want him to know that you're the one. You're this secret code name searching him out because all it takes is him to write your name in it. And you suspect he knows it's you, and they're playing like this game of cat and mouse, and they are actually working together to try and solve this. And it's this great, the dynamic and tension is incredible. It's a really awesome setup. I highly recommend it, even if you don't like Japanese anime or animation. It's really intense.
Interesting.
But Sons of Anarchy won.
Yeah.
Which is probably also a really intense show and has some great handsome men.
Right. People definitely showed up for Death Note, though. It wasn't the landslide that I thought it was going to be. It was a good 70-30, 65-35. So, then moving on down, never seen MacGyver. In fact, after we put this on, I kind of wanted MacGruber, the show, to be on here. Best comedy I've seen in a long, long time. MacGruber. They didn't do like a watered down MacGruber. They did like the real deal. Some hilarious stuff in that show. I love the movie too. But MacGyver, the original, going up against Lost. I did watch Lost all the way through when it was originally on.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I remember liking it for a few seasons, but then there was a big kind of behind the scenes like writer's strike.
Yes,
And I think it was a combination of writer's strike and the fact that your general audience figured out the ending. Like, it was all built to lead to this one point. People started to figure it out, so they had to try to throw people off and throw these like weird twists and turns. There were these like stories that never got paid off, and it was all just really, really wacky. So, but even that being said, I think the ride that I was on with Lost for 3, maybe 4 seasons was worth it. I would have wanted Lost to move on, but lost.
It did lose, and we were thinking maybe because of that tail off,
Mm-hmm.
because of the later seasons. But yeah, Lost to me is like the first example of a show where the writers tried to outsmart their fans. Because it was one of the first. It was around the time when people could gather together on the internet and talk about theories.
Yeah.
The same thing happened with Westworld.
Oh.
And that's why that story kind of tanked. They started writing in so many confusing things to throw them off because people figured it out and they were worried it was spoiled and people wouldn't like the show. And so Westworld tanked pretty quick and started sucking. So, yeah.
Dang. Okay. Didn't know that. Then there's one that you threw on there that you're a big fan of.
I'm such a big fan of X-Files.
The DX Files. Or no, just the X.
And it was going up against Mad Men, and the day before, and even the day we posted it, I was like, I recognized I was like, Mad Men's a really good show, but I was like bummed that X-Files wouldn't go on to the next round. But X-Files won, and
That's awesome.
And I'm so psyched for it.
Yeah, dude. And I wanted to make sure we had our own flavor in here, so we put our own. But I also checked a lot of top 50 shows lists because I wanted to make sure we didn't miss out on any obvious ones. And I saw Mad Men on pretty much every list.
Yeah.
Really high up, like top 5s on like a Rolling Stone.
Yeah, and 11 is a
IMDb.
low seed, but most people probably that like Mad Men would say you guys seeded it too low.
Yeah, and it dropped to X-Files. So what do you know, Rolling Stone? There's a new
We knew.
6 wins
Yeah,
train
we knew it.
rolling through.
So even though that wasn't an upset seed-wise, that one seemed like an upset to me.
It felt like an upset.
Yeah, it felt like an upset to you too.
Yeah.
And then the next matchup was an upset seed-wise.
Big time. Big time. So I will take the hit on this one. I just know Boardwalk Empire to be an awesome show. Like, in the same breath as, like, a Sopranos. I haven't seen it all the way through. Don't tell anybody. But I have only heard my buddies who are film, like, TV buffs, love Boardwalk Empire. So I'm like, oh, it's got to be good. So taking like personal bias out of it, trying to be as objective as possible, let's throw it in there at a number 3 seed. Yeah. And it went up against American Horror Story, which is a newer show. It's popping. It's got the cool concept where every season, some of the same cast, but mostly totally different story, different location, different everything. And Boardwalk Empire dropped in the first round to American Horror Story.
Yeah, this kind of felt similar to like that Atlanta Walking Dead matchup, where it's like a really like well-regarded, critically acclaimed show, but just like because it's similar to shows that are even more popular that are kind of that same genre, they kind of just get sat there in like a B range if you give it like a grade. Yeah. And then like against a very unique show, like the main like zombie show or this main like horror show, they just like the people that want that's all they get. So they love it, you know? So that one, it didn't surprise me because I thought American Horror Story could still be very popular, but it's a big upset there, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so we've got 2 more matchups in this first round. Game of Thrones did go up against Yellowstone, and Game of Thrones won. We can talk about Game of Thrones questions or characters maybe some other time. Because we'll get to talk about it in the next round at least. Yeah. And then Ozark and West Wing went up against each other. This one ended up being very close.
It was close. I was pulling for Ozark, one of my favorite series. A lot of people didn't like the ending. I thought it wrapped it up just fine. But I like Ozark, and I was glad to see that it moved on to the second round to go up against Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
So, alrighty. Should we mosey on over to the comedy region?
I'm ready for comedy. We're big comedy fans.
I don't think I've tried to hide it. Even in talking Best Actor or even Best Wrestler, I am just a comedy nerd. So let's breeze through. We've got a little bit to go. We're shooting for 45 here. So first round was a toughie. This one wasn't as close as I thought it was going to be. We got Seinfeld, which was the number 1 seed, versus Arrested Development, number 16 seed. I'll be the first one to admit, I've seen most of Arrested Development and a good chunk of Seinfeld. I was late on the boat to Seinfeld. In the 90s, when Seinfeld and Friends were popping off, I thought Friends was the better show. I'm 35. I'm just now willing to admit to you, I was wrong. Seinfeld is the superior show. I still like Friends. I think it's a great cast. I think they had a lot of, but I think at the very least Seinfeld aged much better.
Yeah, and Seinfeld's one of those shows that, because when it aired, we were in like junior high school or high school, or even younger actually. I think its final episode aired when I was like in 4th grade.
Okay.
So
97, 98?
Yeah.
Maybe?
So like this was a show that like comedically, like you weren't mature enough to understand it, you weren't clever enough, we weren't smart enough, you know. And when you get older, you look back and you go, oh, they're doing some really funny things here.
Yeah.
Like this is this is great observational comedy. You're in 4th grade. What have you observed? What homework looks like in other kids? You don't know. You don't get like the sociology of like people out in the world and like the weird things everybody does.
Right. So glad to see Seinfeld move on in the second round. Looking forward to talking about him more.
Yeah.
Because it's going to face off the winner of Parks and Rec versus 30 Rock. Now, this was one where we wanted to get a few of these comedy matchups. We realized there were so many good comedies left off. It's only 32 total, but we wanted to get Community on here. So we were like, all right, let's throw Community. It seems like a logical place for Community. So we did Parks and Rec versus 30 Rock versus Community. I've never watched any of these shows.
I've seen episodes of all of them, but I haven't seen a lot.
Yeah.
And when we added Community, I thought that one was going to win.
Really?
Because that one, I think, has the most vocal following.
Yeah.
It's, again, one of those shows, like, maybe not everybody you've talked to has seen it, but everybody that's seen it that you talk to goes, this is like one of my best comedies. This is one of the funniest comedies.
For sure. Well, they didn't quite show up enough because Parks and Rec is moving on. Facing off against Seinfeld. Everybody Loves Raymond, Dick Van Dyke. Weird pairing.
Very weird pairing.
Yeah. But, you know, we, like I said, we had to get some of our flavor on there, but shows like Dick Van Dyke, which I've never seen, way before my time.
I've probably seen more Dick Van Dyke parts than Everybody Loves Raymond.
Really?
If I'm being honest. Yeah.
Oh, I've seen pretty much every episode of Everybody Loves Raymond.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Big fan.
Oh, nice. Okay.
What is... Paul Rudd says it, and I think Knocked Up or Knocked Up, he's like, marriage is like an episode of Everybody Loves Raymond except for the pithy dialogue, something like that.
Yeah, I heard it. Yeah.
But yeah, perfect description of the show, and it's similar to Seinfeld. They get like the little subtleties of life so well. Like there's one where Ray and Deb were like holding hands, but they kept like disagreeing on what the best way to hold hands was. She was like,
fingers.
She was like, I like to go these. He's like, I like to go, and then you do this weird like knuckle crack. You crack your knuckles against like mine, and just like so subtle, but like it somehow everyone knows like being in that scenario.
Yeah.
Everybody Loves Raymond. Moving on.
It is.
Second round. So, how about this one? I know you're a big fan of.
I was a big fan of Psych.
Yeah.
I got it on here. I think it could have been like underseeded. I maybe think it could be higher, but I also didn't want to put it up against something that it could have be and feel like I was trying to finagle my shows on here. So like, if it can take down Fresh Prince, which I think is massively popular, then it deserves to be here. And I was kind of holding out hope that like we'd still get that same like Will Smith, Jake Gyllenhaal rub, where like Jillies beat Will Smith in a Best Actor bracket. And I still don't know why or how that happened. It couldn't have just been the slap. But I thought maybe that happened with Fresh Prince too. I think Fresh Prince won because of its theme song. I'll say that. Psych has a great theme song too, though. I highly recommend Psych. It's a great show. I'm bummed it didn't move on, but Fresh Prince is a very like 90s seminal, pivotal young persons and young adult and early adult comedy.
Yeah, for sure. I grew up, I mean, I got some sentimentals towards Fresh Prince. But yeah, I would go Fresh Prince, but I've never seen Psych. So Curb Your Enthusiasm versus BoJack Horseman. And I know BoJack you had made a strong push for BoJack.
Yeah.
I love Curb. I've recently started when I can, because a 22-minute show is easier to sit down and catch, blow through
the 45, 47.
than a 45 or even an hour. So I've been working my way through the first season of BoJack. It's awesome.
Nice.
Forgot that Aaron Paul from Breaking Bad does the voice in that show. But
oh my god, what's that character's name that he does?
I can't remember. He's like the couch
Yeah.
surfer.
Oh my god. Todd.
Mm-hmm. No.
Phew. Todd Chavez. Spoiler
Yeah.
alert for his last name.
Yeah, but you pointed out to me that it's not just like kind of a silly animated comedy like a Family Guy or Simpsons. It's got some stuff cooking.
Everything that happens is important, and it's not like this is wrapped up at the end of the episode and we usually don't come back to this and the characters don't grow from it. The things that happen affect the characters in later episodes, and they are still dealing with problems that happened episodes or seasons later at times. It is more in line of like a drama show in that way than a comedy, which usually just kind of wraps up stuff. Really quick, I want to give honorable mentions to 2 or 3 episodes from BoJack Horseman because it lost. We won't get to talk about it. This is an episode that you can't watch in a vacuum. It's like an earned episode. You have to watch it when it comes up because I think one of my friends also likes the episode and told one of their friends to watch it, and they're like, it was fine, but it wasn't the best. But when you watch it, if you put in like the time watching up to it, it's like, to me, it was just one of the best written episodes of anything I'd ever seen or witnessed. When you like sit back and go, what did they just do with that episode? And you really understand like what happened. But it's called Free Churro. That episode in BoJack is my personal favorite. There are 2 other really good ones. The penultimate episode, the last episode before the final one, The View from Halfway Down, crushing, kind of about death. And then another honorable mention, and it's set in Michigan, so maybe you'll get there. BoJack's mom or grandma, they grew up in Michigan. They had a summer home in Michigan. He drives home at one point to kind of revisit the family home, and there's an episode called Time Zero, and it's pretty solid as well.
Nice. I feel like I've heard them reference Michigan on the show. Maybe. I'm still pretty early in the seasons, but yeah, sadly it did fall to Curb.
But a respectable show to lose to. When I put BoJack here, because we already knew Curb was 6, I was like, I've got to get BoJack on. And again, if it wins, it's earned it, and I won't feel bad. But if it loses, this is a show I'm fine with it losing to.
Cool. Yeah, like that.
Excuse me.
So Curb will be facing off against Friends.
Which beat Freaks and Geeks. Maybe
Uh,
not surprisingly.
Yeah, I got a little bit to say about Friends. Not right now. We could because we'll probably break them down. I'll break it down in the second matchup. But I love Friends. A lot of classic Friends episodes, and maybe we'll do like a top 5 Friends episodes next time around.
The funny thing was, I told a good friend of mine that when we were building the bracket, and even though you like Friends, I think you were you joked about trying to get it eliminated early.
Yeah.
And you were like, I'm gonna put a show on here, and for this matchup, and I was like, he picked a show, and I think I don't think it has a chance, unfortunately, because I don't think it's popular enough. But I was like, it probably is better. And I told my friend, because she was like, well, what is it? And I was like, Freaks and Geeks. Like, oh, yeah, that should beat Friends.
Yeah.
But I was like, yeah, but it has no chance, really, just because the amount of people that have seen it.
I know. I think if we were going to have one show that would have beat Friends in a 14 spot, it would have been Married with Children. Which, that was probably the one that I regret not getting on here in the first round.
Yeah, that would have been a low seed for it, I think.
Yeah, Married with Children. So that's a good second round matchup, Curb versus Friends. I'm excited to see where that one goes.
Yeah, the dark humor versus the sitcom humor.
Right. Squeaky clean. Although apparently in 2023, Friends is offensive. So who knows? Who can you please anymore? So.
And then the bottom half of this region, really quick, Futurama went up against New Girl, and what I think was the weirdest matchup, but maybe the most balanced. To me, it felt like a total toss-up. Huge Futurama fan. Maybe we'll get to talk about this one more because it did move on.
Yeah.
And I'm happy about it, but I'm sad because I really like New Girl, even though I've only seen a handful of episodes here and there. I respect it as a comedy show. Yeah,
I've seen good amount of the first 2 seasons. My wife loves it, and she kind of got me into it. I didn't really know what it was all about before. I just, but yeah, it's hilarious. It's super, super funny. So Futurama is going to be going up against the winner of The Office and Big Bang Theory. The Office. We did have some love for Big Bang Theory.
Yeah.
Personally, not a fan of the show. Just never really got it, and I don't know. It's been mentioned in the same vein as like some of the best, the same vein as like a Seinfeld or a Friends or The Office, and
I've seen a lot of episodes of both, and I like both.
Really?
Yeah, but I think The Office overall is a better show.
For sure.
Because I think, funny enough, and we can scroll down. I don't know, you can't see it now. We can start talking about the next one pretty soon. But I was just gonna say, I was kind of like thinking to myself today, like, yeah, The Office is, one of those kind of like cleaner comedy shows, and I was like, no, it's really not. Like when you get like the Michael Scott episodes where it's focused on him doing something ridiculous, that gets into offensive territory.
Oh, dude,
like you were talking about like offensive humor that could like rub people the wrong way. Mm-hmm. The Office went there on a lot of things.
Totally went there. Gosh, I'm glad it moved on because we can squeeze more into just our conversation about it.
No doubt.
Some of these fun top fives. So what we got here. South Park. So we're in our final region now. It's our South Park region, Southeast. South Park versus Modern Family. I was a little nervous here.
I was too.
People love Modern Family is awesome, and to have it at a 16 seed is unbelievable.
It dropped a bit, and then it snuck on, and I almost didn't want to put it here, but I felt like if we put something else, it wouldn't have been as good of a show.
Right.
But I didn't want a show to knock out South Park. That probably should be a higher seed than 16 anyway. Like
right.
Modern Family is probably closer to 7 through a 10, quite honestly.
Yeah, and if I had my say, I'd have a finals of Breaking Bad versus South Park. And if that happens, you're never going to see me again because I'm going to go crazy trying to figure it out which show I like better. Probably South Park. I'll say South Park's my favorite show of all time. I think Matt and Trey are perhaps the most important figures in the comedy world ever. I think just the way that they've continued to push the envelope on Comedy Central. All the comics of today put Matt and Trey up on a pedestal as being just like godlike. They're just, even though every single South Park episode might not be like the most laugh out loud funny, they've had some of their episodes have just been like unbelievably profound, but also silly because you're taking these big global issues and you're breaking them down into like a perspective from like how would this look through a kid's eyes, or like just breaking it down in a perspective where like somehow it's not what the left would think, it's not what the right would think, it's not what above would think or below. It's just like the South Park way of looking at things. And I've had my mind made up about certain topics. Then I'll see a South Park episode about it and be like, oh, I was wrong. South Park's right. Every time. It happens all the time.
That's hilarious.
So South Park did win, though.
Well, I know we want to talk more about South Park, and maybe since we're trying to keep this to around 45 minutes, we can save those questions as well for another time, because I think we got one more thing we want to go in detail on.
Yeah.
So maybe we can go down the line here. Golden Girls versus Boy Meets World ended up being a really close vote, and I would have been happy to see either of these when I think they're both great shows.
Yeah.
Boy Meets World did move on. Let's jump down to the bottom and move up to where we'll kind of answer our little bonus question. We had Family Guy, Full House, the crass dad versus the perfect Bob Saget dad.
I know.
Ironically enough, being like one of the most crass comics in real life.
Yeah, rest in peace, Bob Saget, man. What a legend. Just terrible that he passed.
Yeah. And Family Guy moved on, and we're going to get this Family Guy Simpsons matchup because the Simpsons did beat Workaholics.
Uh-huh.
We love Workaholics. If I can move Workaholics on pretty deep, I think it's one of the funniest laugh out loud shows, but I think we both recognize like Simpsons for its longevity and just how important it was to TV, to comedy on TV, to animation on TV. It broke a lot of ground in being a show that could be animated, funny, and for adults all at the same time on TV.
Right.
And then just above that, a couple interesting things. Always Sunny against Glee. Yeah. That was a total wild card. We did not know how Glee would perform, but Always Sunny went by pretty easily.
Yeah, just in the same way we love Workaholics, It's Always Sunny is right there in terms of just like laugh out loud comedy. We have just sent 27 gigabytes worth of space and just like text back and forth of like quoting It's Always Sunny bloopers. Like if you're here with us and you're watching, pause the video, or after the video, go to Google and just type in It's Always Sunny bloopers.
Just watch the playlist. Every single season bloopers.
So
it's good
funny.
6 to 10 minutes and you'll watch them all in one sitting.
Yeah, we could probably reenact pretty much all the bloopers from that show. But yeah, Always Sunny won. And then this one was...
You take some issue with this.
I take so much issue with this. And so we have in our back pocket a card that says we can dispute the results of the bracket. I really, really want to do that, but I'm not going to. Just because I am a fan of the show. But, okay, so the matchup we're talking about, we had MASH versus Jackass.
That was the original matchup.
Yes.
Who do you think would have won that if that played through?
I think Jackass.
Okay.
I think Jackass would have won, but there was one show, well, there were several, but in this matchup here, there was a show that was left off that seemed to be a pretty good pairing with Jackass that I wanted to get on here, and I regret that I wanted to do that. And that show is Impractical Jokers. We added it last second, and it won by a pretty good margin.
It sure did.
So I really wanted to see Jackass move on far because we were in our the early teens into mid-teens, and even with Jackass 4 coming out like a year ago, just such a fan of the comedy, slapstick, like doing silly things and getting public reactions. Like I love that stuff. But Impractical Jokers did move on. It's a hilarious show. I'm not going to take anything away from it. I love Sal. I love Joe, Murr, Brian, Q. I don't know why I just said all their names. It's like we all
He knows
names.
them.
I know. I know the names. So,
He knows them personally. He knows them all on a first name basis.
But Sal, just a quick side note, Sal has actually moved on into like stand up, and he's like good buds with a lot of my favorite comics. And I don't know these people personally, but a lot of podcasts he'll hop on, and seems like a super cool guy. So as much as I wanted to see Jackass move on, Impractical Jokers versus Always Sunny.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Maybe, we can shoot some other small things about, in memoriam for shows that we would have wanted to move on. And the first one that didn't, we can talk a little bit about why people got it wrong and they should have moved on. Jackass or Westworld. I don't care. Westworld didn't make it.
Yeah, and here's the thing with Jackass. Like, I wanted to do, like, their best stunts or best segments, but it's like, in my head, I'd have to really research that because I don't remember what was from the show and what was from the movies. Movies, so it's like, some of my favorite ones, I think, were in the movies, actually. But...
Well, since they're not in the bracket anymore, we're just doing their best stunts, period.
Yeah.
Why not grab the movie ones, too?
Hell yeah, why not? Do what we want.
We're going to do that video. I think we should do it. I think we should do it.
Yeah.
All right, so one more matchup to talk about before we get to the one that we're going to do a little bit more about. This was kind of like the Raymond, Dick Van Dyke, a little bit older shows that we haven't seen that much of, or we're just trying to, capture these other demographics. Mm-hmm. Cheers. Very classic, highly regarded TV show in general.
Yeah.
And I Love Lucy, kind of one of the first major comedies that everybody really knew and watched.
Yeah, we got that on there for the street cred, right?
Yeah.
We want that street cred. We want our bracket to look good.
Lucy and Ricardo have massive street cred. You don't want to walk down the wrong streets where we're from and not be able to, drop your favorite episode of I Love Lucy. You're going to get knuckle sandwich.
Yeah.
All right, but Cheers moved on over I Love Lucy, so all those people that voted, don't come around here because you lost your street cred with Cheers.
Don't come around here.
Stick in Boston where you belong. All right, the last matchup was a sketch comedy matchup originally scheduled between Chappelle's Show and SNL. We added Key and Peele because you've seen a lot of it?
I've seen a lot of it.
I actually think it's my favorite sketch. I think it actually is funnier than Chappelle's Show. Laugh out loud wise when I watch it.
Pound for pound, sketch for sketch, I would say Chappelle has the funniest one or two, but I think sketch for sketch, I think Key and Peele is funnier, dude. They have so many good ones. Did you want to do a quick what were some of your favorites from each?
Yeah.
Okay.
So at the end, really quick, SNL was the one that moved on. So in memoriam, Chappelle and Key and Peele, you racists.
Yeah. No,
but yeah, we wanted to talk about our favorite sketches from Chappelle's Show or Key and Peele. Let me start with Chappelle.
Okay.
Or do you want to start with Chappelle?
I'll do 3 Chappelles.
Okay.
So
I'll make sure I don't do the same ones.
I gotta go with the blind white supremacists. What was his name?
Clayton Bigsby.
Clayton Bigsby. That's just that's what I'm talking about.
It was from the first episode too.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about in terms of that sketch. To me, I'll put that up against any other sketch. But so that's my number 1. My number 2. Mine are all super racially driven, but I guess a lot of the shows were.
It definitely is.
My next one would probably be the race draft.
The racial draft,
Wu-Tang and
Tiger Woods,
Lenny
Kravitz,
Eminem. I think got drafted. So that one was just super clever to me. Super funny. Because it's offensive but not offensive at the same time. Yeah. It's you're doing, but it's silly.
Bill Burr.
Bill
Is
Burr is in it.
One of the
Yeah,
guys?
Sean Burr. Yeah.
Bill Burr's in the best comics.
And then I'll probably go shock value. The N-word family, because I know it's spelled differently.
It is,
but that's not. I'm not going there. But the N-word family is very funny, because it's very Chappelle humor, and I when I saw that,
table for the ends, and they're like, and then they see like, oh yeah, come on, and it just plays on that idea that based on just what you hear, you stereotype, and Chappelle's show really made me understand. And kind of be able to understand the comedy about race, but also see there's comedy and jokes about this because this is how some people view race and some of the issues concerning racism and stuff. But to be able to frame it in a way where you can laugh at it, but recognize that there is an issue and a serious one, but here's comedy for it is a really good way to have people grow up and not be shitheads.
Yeah, definitely. So
the three favorites I'll take for Chappelle, I'm gonna take some really basic ones that are all seem the same that all have kind of guest features.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with the Wayne Brady one.
Yes.
I love that one because it was kind of like the Jimmy Kimmel Matt Damon feud because Chappelle did a joke early on in one of the earlier seasons about Wayne Brady being the softest guy, that's why white people love him. Uh-huh. And then they did in a later season they did a sketch where he met the real Wayne Brady, and the real Wayne Brady went too hard for Dave Chappelle. And it's just so good.
Yeah.
And then I will also go with both of the True Hollywood Stories, the Charlie Murphy ones, Rick James, and the Prince one. I know everybody thinks of the Rick James one more, and it probably is the funnier one, but the Prince one is hilarious too.
Playing basketball.
Yeah.
Yes. Definitely.
So good. So those would be my top three.
Cool.
For Key and Peele, I'm just going to give my two favorite sketches that usually don't show up, but if I need to laugh until I have tears in my eyes, I watch these two. Okay. The first one is LeRon Can't Laugh. And it's mostly physical humor.
Okay.
But they're sitting around in a guy's house, and Keegan-Michael Key is telling a story, and it's lame jokes. I kid you not, I went to get this beer for this girl, and when I dropped it on the floor, and when I opened it, it sprayed all over her face. And the guys start laughing, and LeRon just sits there and goes, just kind of that cool guy who's too cool to make a sound when he laughs. And go, you all right, man? Oh yeah, it was funny. Laugh, let it out. And he keeps going, and he gets to a funnier part. And Jordan Peele is LeRon, and he just starts doing more and more physical, ridiculous stuff. He's going around knocking CDs off the thing. Come on, LeRon, what are you doing now, man? It wasn't that funny. Just laugh. It's ridiculous. My other favorite one is Manly Tears. It's Keegan-Michael Key kind of playing. No, Keegan. No. It's Jordan Peele being a guy who's doing a weird emotion, but they're all gangsters sitting, and Jordan Peele's character's friend just got shot and killed.
Yeah.
And Keegan-Michael Key's everybody knows how close Twigs was with Jordan Peele's character, and now Twigs wants to say some words about his buddy Twigs, and he turns around, Twigs was my best friend. He's crying, and Keegan-Michael Key's hey! None of y'all laugh. This isn't funny. This is a man that just lost his best friend. And there's one part where he's talking about when they grew up, they played Care Bears together. And Keegan-Michael Key goes, ah! And he screams. And he goes, God damn it, that was a weird sneeze. Can you brother get some Claritin up in here? And I lose it. Those are so funny. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Your Key and Peele sketches.
Ooh. Okay. I love the one where they're slaves and they're not getting drafted and they get super disappointed about it. And they're see, now that one surprised me. I don't know the names of some of them, but
it's us talking about the bracket polls.
Right.
That one didn't surprise me, but I feel bad.
Yeah. Does he even know what he's looking for? They're trying to look buff. Gosh, what else was funny? There was the one where, the classic one where the college football teams, where their names get more and more absurd.
Yeah.
Oh yes, the one where they're in the classroom and Keegan-Michael Key whispers over to Jordan Peele, or no, Jordan Peele whispers to Keegan-Michael Key. They're in a math class.
Yeah.
I'm gonna cut this out. They're in a math class, and Jordan Peele says to Keegan Michael Key, he goes, they're like, I wish I were high on pot news. And then Keegan Michael Key goes, I wish I were high on pot news. And that's what everyone hears.
Yeah.
And it's just like that in itself is funny because we've all like repeated a joke or had a joke repeated and everyone laughed and you're like, wait, that's my joke. But then they take it up a notch and then like the whole class like just totally gives it up for him.
The teacher's like, yeah, that's great. Let me call the principal in.
Yeah, principal comes in and like Fluffy, Gabrielle Iglesias comes in. He goes, hey man, that's really funny. I'm looking for an opener.
Yeah.
Just like his career like takes off all because of that one joke. But yeah, that was funny. So
we gotta do it. We gotta do another video to talk more about these two shows too. We gotta do a bunch of small videos for this.
I know.
Yeah,
we do. So good. So yeah, that was the first round. We're gonna be doing little sections. We're gonna be breaking down more individual matchups. But with the first round, we just kind of touch on everything, make sure everyone knows who's moving on, and then in the second round, we'll do like 2 or 3 matchups at a time. So.
Yeah, we done touched on everything but little boys.